Hey, we're going to talk a little bit about video. No, we're not going to talk about video. We're going to talk about ventilation. You thought we were going to talk about video, but we're not. So I'm actually going to ask Jim some questions. We were standing here in the office. We're talking about ventilation, why it's so important. And we thought, let's just do a quick video. So here we are. Dan Thompson, Jim Thompson. All right, Jim, what would you say the number one thing is that you see that is wrong on a roof or an attic when it comes to ventilation? What pops into your head?
What I see most often is improper intake ventilation or pass-through ventilation.
So the intake, where does that come from? Does that come from up on top of the roof or down under the eaves? Where's the intake come from?
So you always want the intake below your exhaust, which these are probably not words you hear every day, but the intake should be on the overhang of your house, the soffit, or it can be located on the roof in a product called Deck Air made by Lamanco, but it always needs to go down towards the edge of the roof. And then your exhaust is typically something like a wind turbine or a ridge vent or just those little square box vents that a lot of houses have. That's going to be your exhaust. The other thing I see very often are the bath fans not vented outside. Typically they're just vented.
Okay, now wait a minute. Now, so we're talking about roof vents.
Yes.
You're talking about bath fans. What do you mean bath fans?
So a lot of houses will either have a window or a bath fan vent. And up until 2005, those bath fan vents were just vented into people's attics. Well, come to find out that extra moisture in the attic has been causing mold for years in some homes. So we oftentimes find that the bath fan vents need to be vented outside the house and not just into the attic. And so
what happens so you see that bath fan, you flip it on, you're taking a shower, you flip on your bathroom fan, and it's blowing air and moisture up into the attic. What kind of problems do you see when that happens?
So I've seen several. Top three is probably mold in the attic, weak delaminated plywood, and then sometimes just water coming through the fan. Water, and in the winter, sometimes ice coming through the fan.
So do people kind of think they see the stain on their ceiling and they think they have a roof leak probably, right?
Yeah, very often.
But it's not. It's just they're just blowing moisture from their living space right into their attic. It's freezing maybe in the wintertime, or it's just pooling there in the summertime and creating a big mold spot, right?
Yeah. I was in an attic probably 3 weeks ago, and most of the attic looked good. The plywood looked good. But right where that bathroom was, it was just probably a 4x4 area that was just black and moldy.
Yeah, wow, 4x4. So probably you'd have to dig out the insulation. You may have to cut your drywall out depending how bad it is.
Yeah.
You may have to replace the bathroom fan itself, not just run the hose up and through the attic. So it could turn into a pretty big problem, couldn't it?
Yeah, little problems grow quickly.
So just a few things maybe people would want to know, like what different types of vents do people put on their roof?
There's my personal favorite is the Whirlybird wind turbine by Lamanco.
Okay.
People that don't use that, we see a lot of ridge vent, and then a lot of times people just use the Lamanco 750. It's a little square box vent. Sometimes they call it a turtle vent, and
do those work very good? I mean,
they work. You just need more of them. So if I was going to, vent the same attic space with Whirlybirds, the wind turbines, I could use 2 Whirlybirds, or I might need 10 of the box vents. So it's an additional 8 or 10 holes in your roof that you don't need.
Yeah, so why not, if you can have the same ventilation with 2 or 3 holes versus 10 or 12 holes?
Yeah.
That sounds a lot better to me.
It is, less holes.
So explain what a ridge vent is. Where does a ridge vent go?
So a ridge vent goes just where it sounds, right along the ridge or the top of the roof. To install that, you cut about 1.5 inch groove all the way down the roof line. And once again, less holes in your roof with turbines than with ridge vent, although there's times when ridge vent is the better answer. And so you put on this plastic vinyl product, and then you put shingles over it. Looks real nice. Kind of blends.
Does it stand up? I mean, is way up off the roof, or was it how far off the roof is it?
Less than 1 inch.
Less than 1 inch.
Yeah.
So you hardly even notice it.
You don't even see it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. All right. Very good. So you got your turtle vents, you got your turbine vents, the Whirlybird type. You got your ridge vent. There's also something called a gable end vent. Older
yes.
homes sometimes have something like that.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about those, and do you see those very often?
So gable vents are on older homes. They do seem to work. They are actually made for exhaust, not intake. So a house that'll have a gable vent on each side, one of them ends up acting as intake to the other, which unfortunately can bring in snow or rain. But if you have good intake and good exhaust, you don't usually need a gable vent. So a lot of times we seal those off so we can get the right ventilation on the house or in the attic space.
I want to come back to that again, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. But so intake, that's the air that's coming into the attic.
Correct.
And it's pushing the air up to the roof vents. How important is that? I mean, couldn't you just have the roof vents? Wouldn't that be good enough?
Well, just like us, we can only exhale what we inhale. So if we just sat here and blew out for a minute, we'd pass out.
Right.
Well, your attic's the same way. If air's not coming in, air's not getting out. It's actually very important to not only have the intake but the exhaust. And it's so important that should be happening about 6 times an hour or every 10 minutes.
Okay.
And most attics, you don't have the intake, you don't have the exhaust, the air gets stagnant, it gets wet, it gets hot, and it
probably really hurts your air condition. Well, insulation, but your air conditioning, your heating and cooling.
Yes.
I mean, if you imagine if it's 100 degrees outside and it's 150 in your attic because it can't get out,
correct,
your air conditioner is just going to be running nonstop.
Yes.
So I don't know anybody that would want that.
Is what I always equate it to, if you're sitting in your car on a warm day, like 85 degrees, and you roll up your windshield, your windows, turn off the car. How long is it before it gets really warm in there? And then how much of a relief is it when you just crack the windows or roll the windows down? It's huge. Going from 120 in a car down to 80, or 110 down to 80, feels much better. Yeah. And so it's the same in your attic. If you can essentially roll those windows down and get some air flowing through the attic, your attic feels better, your living space feels better, your air conditioner runs less, and overall happier people.
That's great. Well, I know you've done a ton of ventilation. I know there's a lot of people out there in Omaha and Plattsmouth and Bellevue and Papillion that have used us to upgrade their ventilation situation, and a lot of people are very happy with it. So I know we'll have some other ventilation videos down the road, but just kind of wanted to touch on the basics of it, and hopefully this helps if you get a chance to take a look and hopefully learn a little something.
Yeah,
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep.